Today I'm analyzing the meanings behind different hairstyles in Star Wars, from Obi-Wan and Anakin's mullets to Commander Gree's two stripes. Not only does the abstract hairstyles of Jedi have significance to their code, but there's also interesting explanations George Lucas provided for many of the other Star Wars character hairstyles. And by the end of this video, I will have gathered a list of the 5 worst cuts. So first off, we need to look at Anakin Skywalker, the main character of the movies. And while in Attack of the Clones, Anakin had the traditional Padawan braid style with very short hair, except for one piece, the Padawan braid, which has been grown out to an extensive length. But for Revenge of the Sith, Anakin needed a more intense, unique look that conveyed the darkness and power of his character in that movie. While a mohawk design was considered at first, George Lucas, understandably, did not approve, and so this was scrapped. George actually went on to say that the hair needed to be longer for what he was going to do.
I think it's too much.
Too far?
Yeah.
Then a hairstyle almost reminiscent of Qui-Gon Jinn was introduced under the form of concept art that was then applied to Hayden Christensen himself, and while this look would have certainly been memorable and does have a nice little parallel with Qui-Gon, who Anakin shared some similarities with, it also didn't turn out good in real life, and Hayden was uncomfortable with it, while George Lucas agreed that it looked too pretty. George Lucas decided that they should have a more rugged look for Anakin in Episode 3, and so they tested the long hair without the tail in the back, which Hayden was more comfortable with and George was more happy with, so that is the look that they ended up using for Revenge of the Sith. Rick McCallum, the producer of the prequels, agreed that they should go with whatever Hayden was comfortable with, as he is the main actor of the movie, so that makes sense naturally. Next up, let's look at some Jedi haircuts and how that is sort of intertwined with their culture. So Ewan McGregor actually gave a thorough look at the evolution of a Jedi's hairstyle on his interview with Entertainment Weekly, where he explained how his Phantom Menace style, that being the Padawan hair, was to represent the culture of the military or monks, where there is a sacrifice of hair for the order, in this case the Jedi Order. It's almost like going along with the idea that to be a true Jedi, you must give up all value that you would find in the material world. For Episode 2 though, they went with a more free-flowing mullet style of hair, or as Ewan calls it, mullet-y. According to him, it was inspired by the Bee Gees, the band. I'm not sure if that was a joke or not, but it kind of sounds like it was, and he goes on to explain that as a Jedi Knight and Master, there's a sort of progression as to your hair length as a Jedi getting longer than it previously was. My take on this is that after going through the trials, you can let your hair simply grow out and sort of be one with the Force, since you can be trusted in that position more now. With Episode 3, Obi-Wan's hair became much closer to that of Alec Guinness in A New Hope, and there's even some graying on the sides if you look very closely. This can be seen as Obi-Wan more reserved after being a 3-year war general veteran, but then also the long hair from Attack of the Clones can more so represent a warrior, whereas this is much closer to that of a true Jedi Master. Now, one thing that's interesting with the Kenobi show is that while they did have a reason behind it being long and sort of more in that Attack of the Clones style, which is in fact that Obi-Wan is in a very bad state of mind here and he has completely given up hope, so there's a more rugged, unkept look here. But at the same time, I will admit that I feel like it kind of slightly gets in the way of that transition from Ewan McGregor in the prequels to Alec Guinness in A New Hope, where Revenge of the Sith really felt like it was transitioning towards that, whereas Kenobi almost feels like it's going in the opposite direction. But I still understand why they did what they did there. Next up is the Clone Trooper haircuts. One important element to look at here is that the big reason there was so much variation between Clone Trooper hairstyles is because they actually were allowed to customize themselves, and this helped to give them identity among themselves and to help with confusion. The two stripes hairstyle was actually meant to honor their fallen clone brothers, but I almost feel like this is more offensive than honorary, because that is just not the look, bro. Anyway, for Captain Rex, he had blonde hair, and there were some other clones with blonde hair too, so they could even change the color of their hair in certain instances. Next up is the Padme hairstyles. So there were many extravagant hairstyles that were given to Queen Amidala in the Star Wars films to portray the feel of elegance that someone of her stature should have, especially in The Phantom Menace. Then in Attack of the Clones, she was allowed to have less intricate styles so that she fit more into the senator role that she was now at in this film, and the space buns that Leia is seen with in A New Hope, which make appearances in Revenge of the Sith, and arguably Attack of the Clones on Tatooine on Padme, was done as a nice nod to where the story was going with her daughter in time. And you will notice in the movies, when Padme is on official Senate business, her hair is much more stylized, but then when it's just her and Anakin, for instance, it is more laid back. So Padme was definitely one of the characters with some of the more interesting hairstyles that I feel like the art department and costume department as well put a lot of time into. But real quick, here's the Christian advice of this video. If you want to get back to the main video, you can skip to this time right here. Now today we don't actually have any sort of Bible verse, as this is the Sunday video and I covered that on Friday's video. However, I did want to give a message that I think will be very helpful to some of you guys and might help you think about who you are sort of associating yourself with and those sorts of things. So that is the idea that Jesus, the fact that Jesus did not come here to unite the world. That is not the truth. He didn't come here for world peace in that sense. He came here for spiritual peace. So Jesus did not come here to unite, but actually to divide and to separate. Separate might not be the best word. Divide, right? As in the faithful servants that believe in him, believe in God, and are faithful to him in their acts and everything. And then those, the evildoers, the sinners, and the people that don't act on their faith. That's what he came here to split the world into those two groups. So he came here to divide, not to unite, which is an interesting thing. Seems kind of radical, but it is definitely the truth. I mean, he literally says it in scripture. Anyway, some quick announcements before we get back to the main video. Album of the week is Heartstone Psycho by Don Tolliver. And then real quick, I just wanted to say you can leave a comment on this video if you want to tell me any video suggestions you have or any questions for this video, or if you just want to tell me how your week has been. Remember, I upload normal videos every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also shorts every single day. But yeah, back to the video. So next up is the alien hair types. And for one, the Twi'leks had Leku, which represent hair and actually moved in ways that expressed their feelings towards things and allowed them to move them separately as they were extra sensitive.
Wanna bet?
Also, two Grotas are similar in that their Leku are clearly reminiscent of hair. Another species to look at is the Nautilans, such as Kit Fisto, whose hair is very close to that of human dreadlocks. And then we also, of course, can't forget about Wookiees, and I feel like there's not much I need to really say here on them, because I think you get the idea. They were covered in hair. So maybe that is the best haircut in Star Wars. It's hard to tell. Have you ever seen what the Wookiees look like without hair? Yeah, look that up on Google. It's like complete nightmare fuel.
Haven't you ever seen a rare hairless Wookiee before?
Anyway, here are the worst haircuts in Star Wars, specifically my picks for the top 5 worst ones. At 5 is the Obi-Wan reshoots hair from The Phantom Menace. Not that this is too terrible if you don't notice it, but if you do know what this is, it just looks so artificial and bad, and like I would never want to rock this hair at any point. I mean, I kind of did once I grew out the buzz cut from last year. Once that got over like 2 months long and it was just very fuzzy all over, it just looked really bad. So yeah, definitely make sure if you're getting a buzz cut, keep it at that level and then fade it up, but don't try and just keep it long all over, bro. It does not look good. At 4 is the Sabine Wren short hair. Now, when I say this, I'm not referring to Rebels because that looked fine there, of course. It's just that the live action short hair, that when she gets it cut in Ahsoka, seemed like such a shame to me because it looked so good when it was all long and stuff with the colors and everything. So it just felt like an interesting decision to cut it down, but I guess it kind of fits with the whole Jedi Padawan idea that we looked at earlier. At 3 is this specific Padme cut that looks like an alien parasite is growing on the back of her head. At 2 is reverse balding clone. Yeah, so this guy kind of forgot how biology works because, you know, you're supposed to bald in the front and the whole back of his head is just like missing. At 1 is Commander Gree, who has that 2 stripes hairstyle that we were talking about earlier. I mean, that probably has a name, but honestly, I don't even feel like looking, but you know what? So I just looked that up because this is really important stuff for Star Wars fans. Need to know this. Yeah, it's called the double stripe, apparently, according to Wikipedia. And yeah, I feel like that kind of speaks for itself why it was called that, and honestly might be the best haircut in history that goes for Star Wars or anything else. I mean, that it looks amazing, you know? So yeah, I feel like I should get this cut too, guys. Maybe when I hit 1 million subs we'll do it, and then I'll just cut it off immediately and like scam y'all. That'd be pretty funny. So overall, there is actually some hidden meanings behind these hairstyles which you probably would not have guessed. And if you found this sort of in-depth analysis interesting, you might find this other video I did where I talked about the Mandela effect in Star Wars pretty cool, so you can watch that if you click this video right here. But yeah, see ya.